What is up, everybody? Welcome to week 11 of the NFL season. Here on Cherry Pickers, we're back with some more picks, some more thoughts on this week's games, and here to bring you our best bets of week 11. We currently have just past the halfway point. We're headed to the back end, the back stretch of the season here, and we're looking to kind of build on some momentum. Last week we went 6-1. The Cherry Pickers group went 6-1 in picks against the spread. The only loss was the Detroit Lions were -3.5, and they ended up winning by 3. So we were almost there. It couldn't have been any closer to being an undefeated week for us. So we're looking to get right back into this, having another good week, and hopefully able to help everybody make a little bit extra for the week. We are going to get started here. One thing I want to say is I hope everybody was able to cash in a little bit on that Friday night fight, that Mike Tyson and Jake Paul fight. If you paid attention at all to any of the signs that were out there, 90% of the tickets were on Mike Tyson, but a majority of the money was on Jake Paul. That screams that the average Joe wanted Mike Tyson to win, but the sharp bettors, the pros, knew that he was a big underdog, and the chances of him winning that were slim to none. So hopefully some of you guys were able to make some cash on that. Let's get right into things here with this week's games. Why don't we start? We'll start with Pittsburgh. We'll start with the Steelers. Steelers are at home playing a huge game, their first division game of the season, which I think is tied for the longest gap from the start of the season into when the first division game is, and that is against the Baltimore Ravens. They are 3-point underdogs at home versus the Ravens. This is a line that screams to me Pittsburgh all the way. I can understand why Baltimore is the favorite here. Obviously, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. They have the best offense in the NFL, according to a lot of the advanced metrics. They have the best running game in the NFL. They have the best graded quarterback in the NFL. They have the best graded running back in the NFL. They're clicking on all cylinders. But you know what? They've lost 3 games. They lost, to the Raiders this year. They almost lost last week. They ended up coming back and winning after being down big. This team does have some holes. The holes are on the defensive side of the ball. They can obviously put up points. They can obviously control the clock with their running game. They can do a lot of great things, but this team also has holes, and it's quite obvious that there is and there will be some opportunities to beat this team. Pittsburgh is playing at home. Obviously a big positive there for the Steelers. Steelers are playing great defense right now. Their offense is clicking on all cylinders with Russell Wilson at the helm. Things are working out great for them with him under center. We finally got enough weeks of information to use to bet the Steelers. The system likes the Steelers. The system thinks the Steelers with Wilson are the bet here at +3. So that's what we're going to take here with our first pick. It's going to be Pittsburgh +3. Pickens and Russell Wilson have made a great connection. The defense has obviously been playing great football. The season just continues to go along like a regular Steelers season where the defense is playing great. But the thing that's different this year, obviously, Justin Fields did a good job while he was in there, but the ceiling is higher with Russell Wilson. It's quite obvious. He can make big plays. He's doing exactly what we talked about earlier in the season on this show, where he's going to run around in the backfield. He's going to extend plays. He's going to make big throws. He's also going to take sacks, but he's not turning the ball over, and he's developing a great rapport with the receivers there, especially Pickens. Pickens is one of the best receivers in the NFL when it comes to contested catches. So just getting the ball near Pickens and letting him go up and fight for the ball or to make acrobat catches have worked for Pittsburgh, and it will continue to work because that's just the kind of player that he is in Wilson. I have noticed that his pass has been a little bit low on the totem pole as far as arm strength has went. That could be a lingering factor from that calf injury, because if he's still tender when he drops back and needs to plant and push, maybe that's the problem. We're not sure here, but we will monitor that as time goes on. If he looks a little shaky with the arm strength, I don't think it's going to matter. I think they're going to keep him in as long as they possibly can. But I like the Steelers here. The system likes the Steelers here. Now, obviously, Baltimore is a great team. This game is always a close game. Jim Bailey, one of the cherry pickers, he was on the show last year with me every week. He said that line stood out to him from day one, that it should be closer than a 3. It should be a 1 or a 2. So grab that number. It's looked pretty steady all week. It looks like it's pretty even bets on both sides, but we're going to go with the numbers that we have and stick with the Steelers in here at +3 at home versus a division foe. Pittsburgh at home anyway is tough, but in a division game and probably their biggest game of the year, it's a lot easier to default your thoughts towards the Steelers and what they're able to do. I'll probably include them in a later pick on a teaser. I'm going to give another teaser this week. Last week's teaser did hit. So hopefully you guys were able to tail that and make some money. I've got another teaser that I like this week, and Pittsburgh's going to be part of it. So that will be our first pick of the week. Let's go with another game here. We're going to get to our picks, and then we'll talk about the Cleveland game. The next game here is the Seattle Seahawks are heading to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. The Seahawks are 6-point underdogs right now. They are in last place in the NFC West, which is kind of hard to believe since they started the year 3-0. They started with really being on fire, playing great football. Then they lost 3 games in a row. Then they went down to Atlanta and really they smacked Atlanta down there. And then they ended up losing their next 2 games after that. The 49ers controlled the first game against Seattle. They went into Seattle, was able to get the win and kind of controlled it. But, Seattle's a tough team. Geno Smith, he's having a good season, even if his touchdowns and interceptions aren't that great this year. I think a lot of these mistakes are coming from them learning a new offense and trying to get these guys in sync to this new offense and what the offense expects of them. There is one surprise that happened this week in this game is that the Seattle Seahawks starting center retired. Today is Sunday, I believe on Wednesday or Thursday. He just said, that's it, I'm done. He's 26 or 27 years old and just said he was done for the year. And I believe that he was not pegged to be the starter in the offseason, that he was actually their second choice. So now they're down to at least their second string center, if not the third guy on their list of guys they wanted at the beginning of the year. And that's a big caveat to this game. It's a big thing to take notice of. If you pay attention to football, when there is a center change, there can be problems. And if it happens midweek, there can really be problems. You're probably going to see some problems with the snap today, just because there hasn't been enough time for this backup to get in there, to get the reps that he needs and to snap the ball and, have the chemistry with his quarterback that he needs to get the cadence down perfect. I think people have a misconception that backups get as many reps as they need in the NFL or enough or even any. There are a lot of backups who get 0 reps. There are a lot of backups that don't take a rep at all in practice, that they have to do what's called mental reps. The practices are very structured, and the NFL has a really, really strict guideline on practice and what they can do as far as hitting goes, as far as how long they can practice. The NFLPA has really got practice down to being something that doesn't risk the players to get injured, and it doesn't risk them for overworking themselves. So backups have to do a lot of mental reps in practice. And a mental rep is, they say mental reps are great, that you can get like 60 to 75% of what you would with physical reps with mental reps if you're focused, if you're paying attention, but it's still not a physical rep. So if this guy hasn't taken any, let's say he hasn't taken any reps at all this year until this week, or almost no reps, then coming into play in San Francisco in a big division game, a game that you desperately need, there's going to be some pressure and some stress on him. The good thing for Seattle is San Francisco's interior defensive line is not good. Javon Hargrave tore his tricep earlier in the season. Done for the year, was the best interior defender they had by far. Malik Collins has come in and played well, but he's not a run stuffer. He is more of a pass rusher, and he's done a pretty good job of that. But outside of him, they don't have much. They've got some younger guys in there who played good in spots, but they're not the kind of guys that are just going to absolutely dominate you and your new center. So I still think this favors the 49ers, and that is going to be a big thing to keep an eye on in this 49ers and Seahawks game. Good thing for the Seahawks, DK Metcalf comes back. He'll be back. He's healthy. That's a huge get for them. 49ers are also going to be without starting corner Charvarius Ward, Mooney Ward. Unfortunately for him, his 22-month-old daughter passed away. She had some health problems her entire life. She passed away a couple weeks ago, and he's been out for 2 or 3 weeks now. I think this is the second game, and he missed I don't think he practiced the week before that because she was having some problems. So Metcalf is going to have to come up big for the Seahawks. The 49ers have a second-round rookie corner named Renardo Green, who is ranked or graded as the third best corner in the NFL right now. He's been a huge bright spot for the 49ers. He's probably going to be given the task of shadowing DK Metcalf as much as possible. So that will be an interesting one to watch. Seattle's going to have to get their run game going. 49ers tackling this year has been atrocious. I don't know what the problem is. If anybody watched the highlights of that Buccaneers game last week where Joey Bosa had his hands on Baker Mayfield and didn't bring him down for whatever reason, I don't know. That has been a theme this year. If they can get their running game going, if the center can snap the ball good and Metcalf can get going, they could easily cover this game at 6 points. That's what the system likes. That's where we're going. Obviously, Brandon Ayuk is done for the year for the 49ers. And Deebo Samuel has been quiet this season, to say the least. Juwan Jennings has done great. They're probably going to go more to Juwan Jennings. The 49ers are going to go to the rookie who's now healed. He's back. He's back on the field, getting better every week. And, of course, George Kittle will be there and Christian McCaffrey as well. But the system likes the 49ers, likes the Seahawks getting 6 against the 49ers. That'll be the second pick. Next pick, the Bears at home playing the Packers. The Bears are getting 6 points now. This line has moved up. There's been some major money coming in on Green Bay, it looks like, but the system likes Chicago getting 6. Chicago fired their offensive coordinator. Who knows if that will help or not? Caleb Williams has looked atrocious lately. We can see the flashes of the physical talent he has. Whether or not he's got enough to maybe reel himself in, get a little bit better at some of these things that he's doing that just aren't great, which is hitting guys that are open, hitting guys in the middle of the field. I don't know. The Bears beat the Packers last year in one of their games. It's probably Eberflus's biggest win. It's in Chicago. They fired their coach, Eberflus, their offensive coordinator. Eberflus is a coach that's on the hot seat. I would think it's absolute desperation time for Chicago to get almost a touchdown at home playing a division foe. I like it. System likes it. That's the next pick. We're going to Tennessee as the Titans take on the Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota is a 6-point favorite. System likes Minnesota -6. Minnesota, obviously one of the best teams in the NFL, played an absolutely ugly game last week against the Jaguars. Sam Darnold looked like the Sam Darnold of old. He looked terrible. Their offense could not do anything whatsoever. But guess what? They still won the game. And that's the sign of a great team. When you can play horrible and still win, even if you're playing Mac Jones, even if you were playing the Jaguars, it's still a professional football team. And the difference between an amazing professional football team and the worst professional football team in the NFL is not that big. So for you as a team to be able to gut through that and get that win, that says a lot. They are very healthy. They're probably the healthiest team in the NFL right now, taking on Tennessee, who we've bet on them at the beginning of the season, and Will Levis screwed us over the first 2 weeks of the season, throwing pick sixes that we would have covered both games, won money on both games if he didn't throw those. He actually played a great game last week against the Chargers, his cleanest game of the year. But the system likes Minnesota at -6 going into Tennessee. Tennessee does have one of the best defenses in the NFL. In fact, yardage-wise, believe this or not, ladies and gentlemen, The Tennessee Titans have the best defense in the NFL as far as how many yards they give up per game. What hurts them is the amount of points that they've given up this year. But a lot of that comes on special teams. I believe they've given up like 5 special teams touchdowns this year, which is crazy. That shouldn't count against the defense. I have no idea why it's scored that way or tracked that way on the statistics, but it is. But Tennessee, I believe, is going to be a team to watch to bet on later in the season after this game because of that defense. This will be their 8th game against a top 7, 8, 9 defensive EPA team. In other words, their opponent's defense is in the top 8 and expected points allowed to the opposing offenses. So they've had an awful run of teams to have to play to have great defenses. We'll worry about that later. Minnesota -6. Before we head to our next game, please remember 1-800-GAMBLER is there for you to give you the information and resources you need if you feel like you have a gambling problem. The next game, the New England Patriots are at home taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Rams coming off an ugly loss to the Dolphins, a game which they were favored, where they just got beat up. Their offensive line couldn't do anything right. They gave up a ton of pressures, and they looked really bad like the team that they were at the beginning of the season, whereas the previous week they go and beat Minnesota at home, and then they lose to Miami. This week, they're taking on the Patriots in New England. System likes New England getting 4.5 points here. You can find that on FanDuel. I believe most of the books have it at 4. FanDuel has it at 4.5. Always shop around, get the best line that you can. We're going with New England at +4.5 against the Rams. The system likes that. New England's not played that bad. The rookie quarterback they've got in there right now has been playing great. He's been moving using his feet. They've been competitive in games. They're tough at home. Their defense is tough. Their offense is not very good. Their offensive line is not very good. So if the Rams win this game or control this game, they're going to have to come out and play good defense, especially across their front 7. This could be a disaster spot for New England. I don't really feel great about this pick because we've had people say that Mike McVay coached his worst game against Miami last week. Mike McVay is a sharp coach. He is a great coach, one of the best in the NFL, one of the best young minds in the NFL. He's been doing it for a long time, 7 or 8 years there now. He got hired, I believe, before he was even 30 years old. He might have been 30 years old when he got hired, which is insane for an NFL coach, but he's proven his worth, went to 2 Super Bowls, won one of them, constantly competitive, constantly in the playoffs, does the most with what he has. They could very easily cover this 4.5 and win. But New England playing in New England with a tough defense, with maybe some holes on that offensive line. Who knows? We'll stick with the system here. New England at 4.5. Next game here, we're heading to New York. MetLife Field. The Jets are hosting the Indianapolis Colts. And the Jets, I don't know if the Jets have been an underdog this year. They are 4.5-point favorites, again, on FanDuel. That's where you can find that line. The rest are 4 points, I believe. They're 4.5-point favorites against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts, I don't know, a team trying to find their identity, and it's a team trying to stay in the playoff race. They go from Anthony Richardson to Joe Flacco because Richardson gets hurt. They go back to Richardson. And what's he do? Taps his helmet. I need a break. I need out. You don't do that as a starter in the NFL at the quarterback position. You think your offensive line is going to respect you when they're out there busting their butts and clawing and scratching and dealing with fingers that are bent sideways, knees, back aches, probably taking pain medicine to mask it to get through the game, and you're taking a couple plays off because you're tired from running around. Well, the Indianapolis Colts did not like that. The coaching staff didn't like it. They benched him for 2 games. Flacco come in and didn't look great. In Flacco's defense, they had 2 really tough games there. They played Minnesota one of the games. I think they might have pulled the plug on Flacco a little bit too soon, but Flacco's not the future. Richardson could be. Like we talked about on this show, he's got to fix his accuracy problems. He's got a cannon. He's a big kid. He can run. He just misses so many wide open guys. If he could get his accuracy percentage up to just 60%, which is like bottom of the barrel in the NFL, I don't know that he's even thrown 50% this year. If he is, it's barely over. If he could get that to 60%, the ceiling on this team is through the roof. His accuracy was bad in college and it's bad in the pros. And that's one thing that almost always carries over from college to the pros. We'll see what happens. This team did have the best offensive line in the NFL. I believe they've had some injuries. They might be like a top 3 or 4 offensive line in the NFL. If they can control this Jets defensive line, run the ball, Richardson can get a couple big passes off. They could very easily cover 4.5 points. The Jets are playing like crap. I don't know who is throwing money on the Jets like this every week. They got embarrassed by the Cardinals last week. This reminds me of Brett Favre and his Jets tenure of 1 year where they just weren't that good. But this is even worse. And for this team to be playing worse than they did with Zach Wilson, man, that's not good. Tyron Smith is out for the Jets, so the offensive line is not going to have one of their centerpiece guys there. The system likes Colts plus 4.5, and that's what we'll take. The next game here is Atlanta. The Falcons heading to Denver to take on the Broncos. The Falcons are getting 2 points. System likes Atlanta. I haven't liked Atlanta all year. I think they've been fake. They're the good, bad team, as Bill Simmons would say. The good, bad team. But the system likes them here. 2 pretty evenly matched teams. I do believe Denver has a better defense. I do believe Denver has the brighter coach. And I do believe Denver has a real home field advantage. I don't like this pick at all. We're going to go with Atlanta plus 2. This is a really close game. As far as the numbers go, it just barely qualified. So we'll go with it, I guess. The next game, the biggest game of the week in the NFL, the Buffalo Bills are hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. The Bills are 2-point favorites. And every week, everybody around the NFL has been saying, how long can the Chiefs keep this up, where they win these games in ways that they shouldn't? You know, they should probably have 3, maybe 4 losses this year. They're undefeated right now. You block a kick at the end of the game when Denver played their butts off. Denver really played an amazing game, and that's a shame that team did not get that win. It has to end at some point, right? But who knows? With Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and that defense that is a real legit defense, who knows what's going to happen. System likes Buffalo minus 2. The system thinks Buffalo is the better team here, and its system thinks the Buffalo is more than 2 points better than Kansas City. It's all going to be on Josh Allen. We know that his ceiling is crazy high, probably highest ceiling in the NFL for pure raw talent. I'm talking about if Josh Allen plays at peak Josh Allen, perfect Josh Allen is probably, and that's not happened, and it wouldn't happen for a sustained amount of time, but I'm saying in a 1-game vacuum, he probably does have the highest ceiling because he can run better than Patrick Mahomes. And some of these other guys here at the top of the NFL. Patrick Mahomes is a better quarterback, and I would take Patrick Mahomes 10 times out of 10 over him. But you get a perfect game from Josh Allen, and it's going to be extremely tough to beat him. I'm not saying that he needs that today. I'm just saying that the ceiling is there. He can show up in big games. He had one of the craziest NFL playoff games I've ever seen, in that game that they lost to the Chiefs. Some of the throws that guy made to Gabe Davis, the way he fired that football had to be going 75 miles an hour. He played an amazing, amazing game, and they lost. This is a huge game. This is their Super Bowl. Chiefs are due for a loss. The Bills are due for kind of a signature win. They got whooped by the Ravens earlier in the season. The Ravens are a different kind of team. They're built different. This Chiefs offense has just not played well. Mahomes has had some bad luck. His numbers are worse than they should be. His turnovers should not be that bad. It's going to be a great game. The system likes Buffalo minus 2 here. We're going to go with that as well. The next game here, the Chargers are minus 1 point favorites against the Cincinnati Bengals. System thinks the Chargers are the better team. The Bengals are playing great offense. They can beat bad teams. They can score. And that's the kind of thing that worries me about this game, is that the Chargers aren't going to have 2-play drives with big plays to score. They sustain drives. They are coached by Jim Harbaugh. He plays good football on the offensive line. He plays defense. His offense doesn't turn the ball over, and they kick field goals. If this gets to be a game where the Bengals and their offense gets clicking, and Burrow and Chase are clicking, and these guys are just running up and down the field and scoring, then they could very easily win this game. If this Chargers team that has a great defensive line, that has a great offensive line, can control the clock to keep the Bengals offense on the sidelines and can, come through and put points on the board when they need, they can win. But this team's also susceptible. I looked at their schedule. They haven't beat a good team yet this year. All 6 of their wins are against bad teams, and all 3 of their losses are against teams with winning records. One of them being the Cardinals, which isn't that great of a team. They ended up losing on a last-second field goal because they couldn't get in the end zone. So not real confident on that, but that's who the system likes there. One other game here that I'm not going to put any money on this one is the Raiders getting 8 points heading to Miami. The system thinks that the Raiders can cover that 8 points. I am not making this an official pick here on this show. We will with our group, but I don't know. The Raiders, they can get beat, and they can get beat bad by good teams. The system thought that they could cover with that game with the Bengals. And it seems to be with the Raiders, when one bad thing happens, it snowballs into a bunch of bad things. Do with that information what you will. I am not putting any hard-earned money on the Raiders, but according to just the numbers, it looks like they can cover against this Miami team. Who knows? Miami's due for a big offensive output, if you're asking me, and I wouldn't want to be betting on this game. The last game here, and one that we can't bet on because we don't have enough information from the quarterback, Jameis Winston, is the Browns are taking on the Saints here. And it looks to me, this is a 1-point line here. The Browns look like 1-point favorites now. I think this line has went back and forth. Who knows? Zadarius Smith got traded from the Browns. This Saints team, they came through for us last week. They beat Atlanta. That was one of our picks in a division game there. Playing in the Superdome, it helps. Derek Carr helps. They've got a ton of injuries, though. This is probably going to be a good game, and I expect this line's pretty good. Even if I had enough information, I don't know if I would bet on this game because of these teams just being kind of shells of themselves, really, and not being the teams that we have seen earlier in the season. Winston had one good game, then had a terrible game. Carr and the Saints started out on fire the first 2 weeks, and then they got hurt. They lost, 7 games in a row, I believe, and then they won last week. They are 4-6 against the spread. The Browns are 3-6 as a team against the spread. Both of these teams not good against the spread. Not a lot to talk about here. Olave's out. There's just too many question marks for me here. I mean, both teams playing for next season. Dennis Allen gone. And like I said last week, usually get a 1-week bump when you get an interim coach coming in. That's what happened with the Saints. They were special teams coordinators, now the head coach. They were all happy for him. That's worn off. Browns, who knows what's going on with them. This team, I couldn't be a Browns fan, and thank God I'm not. I would just probably be watching something else in the winter or another team. Unfortunately, sorry, Browns fans. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. I just can't understand the organization. I know they've had some bad luck and best intentions when they got the quarterback they did, but they're playing for the future right now. And for them, hey, hopefully you can get some wins to end the season, get something to feel good about and to build on for next season. And so that'll do it for the system picks. I do have a teaser pick here that I told you I would go with. My picks this season are 12-12 on the year. My teaser picks, I do have a winning record with the teaser picks, and my player props, I'm a little bit under 500. But I've just got one teaser pick here for you. I'm going to go with the Steelers and the Colts together. Quickly, what's a teaser? A teaser is a parlay where you get 2 teams together, but you add 6 points to the team that you like. I don't bet parlays. I don't take 2 teams at once together. Those are the bets that the books that these apps make their money on. It's why when you go to these apps in the top, you see, oh, bonus, bonus, bonus. Bet this 3-team teaser. Bet this 3-player prop, parlay. And the teasers are what they kind of push you away from because it's a lot easier to cover those. You don't make as much money back, but you got a lot better chance. So the Colts will go from +4.5 to +10.5. And the Steelers will go from +3 to +9 in a teaser parlay, in a teaser here. I like this bet. You're giving both teams more than a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. I told you guys last week, try to find as close to -120 odds as you can. Last week's, I was able to find -122, I think is what I got it at. That's fine. If they're going -140, I wouldn't make the bet. Go to another book, another app to try to find better odds there. So that'll do it for this week's episode. We had a great week last week. Let's hope we have a great week this week. I will say that things have gone well for the average Joe this year in the NFL. The average Joe is making a lot of money because a lot of favorites are covering. And the bookmakers and the sharp bettors, the pros, haven't been making as much money this season. And I'll tell you, I've seen this in the past happen, and it swings the other direction at some point in the season. So at some point in the season, these underdogs are going to start covering. We are 17-13 in our last, I believe, 3 weeks combined against the spread. That's a pretty good mark. Overall, we're right around 500 for the year. I have to do the records, but we're either a couple games above or a couple of games below. But I do expect that to swing the other direction. Last week, 6-1, that's a great week. I don't think we're going to continue that. But winning weeks should continue. And even if we have a losing week, the winning weeks should come and hopefully take over. So if you guys are betting on every single bet that we give here, hey, my heart and my thanks go out to you. Hey, I'm glad you put that much confidence in us. But I do believe that things are going to start getting even better for us because these underdogs have got to start covering at some point. It's just sometimes the bounce of the ball will go your way for quite a few weeks, and then history comes into play, and these sharp bettors, these guys that make money doing this, and especially these books makers, these apps are not going to continue to lose money or make less than expected. Their stakeholders will not be happy with that. So just a little bit more information there for you. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. I appreciate all the people who have tuned in and everybody who sent nice, kind messages. We appreciate them. We'll see you next week at noon. Thanks for tuning in to YSN.